thinking about moving to Colombia or South America, you need to watch this. There are great women here. My girlfriend of a year, plus I have a whole list of Colombian female friends as well who are hardworking, respectful, very different to what you see on social media. They call this city the City of Eternal Spring. That is wrong. I have never told anyone before. This is the one reason why I've honestly thought about moving away from Medellin. I really had no expectations or knowledge about Colombia before I came here, but then I ended up falling in love with the country and it kept me here for a year. Only recently have a few circumstances changed which have made me reconsider my need to live here, but more on that later. Before I get into my personal experiences and how that applies to you, for all of you guys who have short attention spans, here's the answers. There you go. Video done. For everyone else who wants a bit more detailed explanation, then keep watching. When I decided to come to Colombia, I'd been traveling for 2.5 years at that stage. I always wanted to visit South America, but I kept delaying the trip because of one thing, and that was my level of Spanish. Although I'd done my Duolingo and online classes, I was still completely lost when Spanish speakers came up to me and started speaking full speed. I'm not the usual traveler. I don't like to stay in the most touristic area, just go to restaurants, party, and then go home and said, wow, what an experience. My favorite thing to do is connecting with the locals, learning about the culture, and getting below that superficial level of travel that most people do. The fact that I didn't have Spanish nailed down really made me not want to go to South America. But I was in Seattle, Washington with a couple of my mates, staying at their place. They were actually coming into a bit of vacation time and they wanted to travel somewhere new and check out the place, and we're all going to travel together. But I didn't really have any plans and I was pretty free, so I asked them, where do you guys want to go? They said South America. I've heard a lot of good things about Colombia. We finally decided on that, and just because they were going, I thought, now's my chance, I might as well do it. I've still been taking my lessons and things like that, so I was improving slowly. But I thought, hey, let's just jump in and go for it. They spoke even less Spanish than me. So even in my head, if I wasn't ready, I'd be more well prepared than them. So I thought, let's give it a crack and see what happens. So I booked our tickets and said, let's do this. First stop, Bogota, Colombia. Unfortunately, before I got to Colombia, I didn't know anything about the country than the rest of you guys do. And I guarantee you don't know about all the good things. If I asked you to name the top 3 things, you'd probably say something like narcos, drugs, violence, something like that, right? I mean, that's not pointing fingers or anything like that. That's just what the media feeds us, in our countries. But I can tell you now, the country's a lot more than that. So we booked our tickets to Medellin and decided to go to the City of Eternal Spring. From the moment you jump off that plane, you're going to notice how lush and green everything surrounding the city is. Basically a city that's been built in the middle of a jungle, and it looks incredible. If you're looking to improve your Spanish and you want some practice out in the real world, Medellin's a perfect place to do it. So imagine this, right? You ride in an Uber every day for 10 minutes and you have a conversation with the Uber driver. Times that by 7 days, so that's 70 minutes of conversational Spanish practice that you're getting every single week. How can I afford to take so many Ubers every single day? You are asking probably at this point. Those 10-minute Ubers I was telling you about, they probably only cost $1 or $2. 45-minute Ubers, they can cost like $5 max. Everything except rent, more on that later, and electronics, everything else is cheap. You can go to a nice restaurant. I'm not talking like, Hilton 5-star, a nice restaurant, sit down meal, and that's going to cost you in the most expensive part of town about $5. If you come at a special time of day, usually that's Monday to Friday, they have a thing called menu of the day, only for lunch. You might get something like a juice and a meal, sometimes a dessert with that, and that's $5 as well. If you're a more fancy person and you actually like going to fancy restaurants, you can probably get a 3-course meal at a fancy restaurant for $15-20 maximum, I'd say. This part of the video actually could be a whole video on its own. So to save time, I'm just going to tell you everything's cheap except what I mentioned before. And with that, I know that there's a lot of places that are actually cheap. Probably saying to me right now, India, Southeast Asia, or something like that, right? But there's a big difference with Medellin. Those places I previously mentioned aren't as developed as Medellin. You land in the city, you see all these big skyscrapers, the roads are more or less nice, has nice restaurants, has nice co-working areas, nice cafes. It's not just dirt roads and a beach. I understand why those places are cheap, but Medellin's different. This value for money coupled with the cost of living is a big reason why so many expats are living in Medellin right now. In fact, in 2013, Medellin was recognized as the most innovative city in the whole world. I come from a country, Australia, where it's very hard to break into social circles. People are very happy with their friends that they have. Unless you know someone already who's going to vouch for you and introduce you, it's very hard to break into a group of Aussies. I've been told this by plenty of international friends who've come and lived in Oz, even after a year or two living there, say, hey, I don't have any Aussie friends. It's very different in Colombia. Don't find it strange if you just meet someone on the street or at a language exchange and they immediately invite you to do something together. They're a lot warmer. They don't have up this barrier that a lot of other countries do. Example of this that I want to share with you guys actually happened to me within the first month that I moved to Medellin. I decided, hey, I don't want to just stay at a hostel and talk to other foreigners or a hotel and just hang out by myself. I want to go 2 feet in, straight in the deep end with some locals, learn about the culture, practice some Spanish, and just really get a feel for the place. So I went on Airbnb and I found a room in the house of a couple who was Colombian. They were about 22, 23. The guy was a chef and the girl was a psychologist. So I thought that's pretty interesting. We might have something to chat about. And the selling point was they were both vegan, which I am too. So I thought, hey, let's go check it out. So I got there, we chatted on the first day. Like all Colombians do, they say, hey, if you need anything, here's our number, let us know. Don't hesitate to contact us. We can give you all the tips you want, blah, blah, blah. That's just base level. You're gonna get that everywhere. But the next day, the girl, she told me, it's my birthday coming up this weekend, Friday night. I want to invite you, so come along, meet my friends. You're welcome to come if you want. I thought, okay, maybe she's just inviting me to be nice. You know, I'm in the house anyway, might as well go. So the time came, I came down, said hi to everyone, and I immediately got the feeling that it wasn't just like they were having small talk, like, hi, what are you doing here, blah, blah, just to make me feel better or feel welcome. They were genuinely interested in what I was doing there, and we ended up chatting for a long time. They were also like, hey, take our numbers. If you need anything, let us know. Happy you're in our country, visiting. Hope you get to see a lot of great things. Go to this place, this place, this place, and we hope you love your time here. And that kind of thing you honestly don't get where I'm from. You need to meet someone 1, 2, 3, 4 times before you gain their trust. So that's one huge benefit of Medellin and Colombia, which I really, really liked. Very easy to make friends. From basketball coaching to tennis lessons to singing lessons to dance classes to board game clubs, to everything that you want, you can find it here. And there's groups for everything as well. You can find Facebook groups for these things, WhatsApp group for these things, where you can connect with similar-minded people and do whatever you want to do. Also, in terms of accommodation, you can stay in hostels to meet other people, which might range you $5 to $10 a night, or you can stay in Airbnbs, standard Airbnbs, or super luxury penthouses. If you're vegan, vegetarian in the main areas of Poblado and Laureles, and also sometimes you can find them in Medellin and other suburbs. They have vegan options and vegetarian options. There's only 2 things in my whole year that I haven't been able to find. One of those things is a special type of computer that I wanted that they didn't sell here. And the second thing is Ethiopian food. So if Ethiopian food is your specialty, there's a huge void in the market. Come down, start a shop in Medellin, and I'll be your first customer. I was talking to my good friend yesterday. He's been here for over 10 years. So I asked him about the main reasons that made him stay here. He said he lived in other places around the world, but the strongest expat community that he'd found was here in Medellin. And they're not just, keeping to themselves, doing their own thing. They're always organizing things. As I said before, there's a group for everything, and expats always trying to network and hang out with each other. If trying to find friends and trying to find a community is difficult for you, then this is the place to be. There's even a Facebook group called GRINGO Paisa. I'll put the link in the comments. Anything you want answered, you come there and you can drop a question. You automatically have people helping you out and giving you multiple recommendations of how to solve the problem that you have. The second to last thing on this list is language exchanges. And that's probably the sole reason why I improved my Spanish so much in such a short amount of time. So if you don't know what language exchanges are, they're basically an event where you go, there's tables set up and each table has a different flag on it. So it might be Spanish beginner, Spanish intermediate, Spanish advanced, Portuguese. There's one of those almost every night of the week, and each of them go for about an hour or 2. And it's not just other foreigners there who are coming to learn Spanish. There's Colombians there as well who are trying to learn English. You can help them out with their English for a bit. Once they get sick of speaking English, you can just start speaking Spanish to them. So you basically get half an hour of just purely Spanish practice with a local. And that is invaluable. I went from being pretty unsure of myself before I got to Colombia, as I said in the start of this video, to filming street interviews in Spanish in just under 3 months. I wanted to put this last one in there because if all you read about dating in Colombia is on YouTube and social media, you're going to think that every single woman here is trying to drug you, rob you, take advantage of you, steal your money, or something along those lines. That is very untrue. Without being too insensitive to people who've been drugged and robbed, I just want to say in most cases, there are obvious exceptions, but in most cases, the type of person you attract is dependent on you. If you come to Colombia and you don't speak any Spanish at all, you're immediately on the dating apps and you're trying to meet up with a girl after sending 2 messages, I don't think you're going to attract the best kind of person. Also, if your main strategy for picking up a woman or pursuing a woman is going to the club, drinking 20 beers, racking 10 lines of tussie, and then hoping someone will stumble home with you at the end of the night, that's probably also not going to attract the best type of person. If you go about it the right way, you learn the language, or at least try, learn the basics, learn something about the culture, try and meet people in a normal, more wholesome setting rather than in the bars, in the clubs, then I think you're going to have a good time. I don't want to talk about this for too long because I have a whole series of videos on this. If you want to know about identifying red flags in the type of women here or what to watch out for in terms of scopolamine and different drug and rob techniques, check the description. All I want to say is there are great women here. My girlfriend of a year plus, I have a whole list of Colombian female friends as well who are hardworking, respectful, very different to what you see on social media, but I met them all in wholesome places. If you see a common pattern, then you're onto something. Don't let all the bad stories from guys who come here just chasing women and drugs scare you away. That's the end of the list for positive things. Right now, before I get to the bad things and you're still in a happy frame of mind, I think it's a good time to remind you, if you're finding this info useful, subscribe and check out my other videos. I think I have more than 20 videos on Colombia talking about the good and the bad sides. But now let's move on to the bad. This one's going to confuse a lot of people, but one of the negatives is the weather. They call this city the city of eternal spring. That is wrong. Unless spring in your head is raining every single day. So when I first got here in November of 2021, it was pretty nice all day, 20, 22 degrees. That's Celsius, so convert that to Fahrenheit. I have no idea about Fahrenheit. Every single day, it rained for a little bit, but it cleared up in maybe half an hour or an hour. Good to go for the rest of the day. But in about April, that all changed. Raining all the time and heavy, heavy rain. For me, who likes to do activities outside, I couldn't plan anything because as soon as I planned something and got there, for example, went to a tennis lesson, bang, raining. And then I just have to go home. And that continued from basically April to when I left in November. Rain every single day, torrential, heavy rain. So this one is something that I framed as a positive earlier, but if you're the type of traveler who wants to come here and not really interested in learning Spanish, this is going to be a problem for you because, as I said before, not many people in Medellin and Colombia speak English. And I don't mean they don't speak English at an intermediate level, they don't speak English at all. Hello, that's it. And if you've been to Mexico, you've gone to Cancun and gone there for 2 weeks and go, oh, this is sweet. Colombia is going to be the same. It's not. Probably most of the people there speak English. Before you come here, get that out of your mind because it's completely two different worlds. The reason for that is because Mexico has been a popular tourist destination for many, many years. With that, the Mexican people know how to cater for tourism. They know, hey, to get the most out of our tourism industry, to get the most sales, to get the best tips, whatever, we need to speak English. So they started learning English a lot earlier. Colombia, on the other hand, was super dangerous 20 years ago. Tourism only started in this country maybe 5 to 10 years ago. Say it started 10 years ago, but maybe it started taking off 5 years ago. That's not a long time for the Colombian people to get their shit together in terms of catering for tourists. So a lot of them still do not speak any English. If you're what I like to call a super gringo, this city might not be for you. Going back to the point about how they haven't had that much time to cater to tourists and get used to the tourism industry, service here sucks. It's not good. What does that mean? It means you might wait 10, 15 minutes for anyone to even look at you and come and take your order. You might also wait 10, 20 minutes, half an hour after you finish for someone to actually come and ask if you want the bill. So if you're the kind of person who gets very annoyed at something like that, keep that in mind and chill out a bit before you get here, or you're going to be frustrated and annoyed a lot. And while we're on the topic of restaurants and service, the food here is not good. Has no spice, has no flavor. I came directly from Mexico, which has some of the best food in the world, you know, and here, very bland. If you talk to Colombians, they're going to tell you this is the greatest food of all time, delicious, blah, 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 blah. Do a test for me. If anyone comes to Colombia, find out what the top meals of Colombia are, go and eat them and tell me what you think. As I said before, I'm not an expert on local Colombian food because I am a vegan, so I can't even eat all this deep fried fatty meats that they have. But many friends of mine who are meat eaters have told me the same thing, that the food is just not good. If time is important to you and you like things to be done on the dot. Maybe you're from Germany or Switzerland. You guys really like things to be done yesterday. It's not going to happen here. Sorry to tell you. Colombians, I wouldn't say that they don't care about time. It's almost that they have no concept of time. They don't even know that time's a thing. They just do whatever they want, whenever they want. So if you organize to meet up with someone, a friend, or even a date, and you organize to meet them at 7 p.m., there's a good chance that they're showing up at 8 p.m. There's a really good chance that they might even show up at 9 p.m. with no explanation. And they'll just be like, hey, nice to see you. And at 8 p.m., especially if you're waiting for a date, you'll probably receive a message saying, hey, I'm almost there. And then you'll be waiting. She'll just show up at 9 p.m. and be like, hola, get used to it. If you're looking to do any kind of business here, you're going to be in for a hard ride because Colombians, from what I found, they don't plan anything advanced. They just do things in the moment. I think this is a byproduct of the relaxed lifestyle, you know, warm weather, Latino culture. That's just how they live. It's on you to understand that and adapt. But yeah, I'd say in the first few months of being here, I would expect high levels of frustration. Okay, safety. Let's talk about safety. It's probably one thing that you've heard about Colombia, that it's not safe. People are trying to kill you. People are trying to rob you. You just walk around the corner and you immediately will lose your phone and everything you have. That can be true, but it's also not true. I personally, in a year, haven't had any direct safety issues because I'm very safe. But that can also be a problem for people. If you want to come here and you want to have a relaxed time, probably not the place for you. Unless you just want to stay right in the tourist hotspot, Uber everywhere, that might be fine. But if you want to do anything else, you need to be looking over your shoulder all the time. I have a whole video of safety tips, by the way, so I'm not going to get into that either. That's in the description too. Check that out if that concerns you, and then you'll understand what I mean. But yeah, just an anecdote from my own personal experience. I never just walk out of the house with the headphones in my ears and just relaxed and hanging out. I never have music in, first of all, because I need all my senses to know what's going on. Always walking around, looking around, seeing what this guy's up to, what that guy's up to, especially if I'm walking in the street. And if I have any valuables with me, I'm never walking. I'm always taking Ubers every single time. Yeah, that can be a downer for a lot of people because you can never really relax unless you're at home. You got to weigh that up with the cost of living and the other benefits, which I already mentioned. There's usually a few things that you can do to increase your safety 99%. But just remember those things, because the one day that you let your guard down is the one day that something's going to happen. Because armed robberies are on the rise here and they do happen quite frequently. Rental prices. Colombia, it's a third world country, rent's going to be cheap. Well, yes, but probably not in the places you want to live. Let me give you two examples. I have a friend who lives in Medellin, maybe half an hour, 40 minutes from the main tourist area. He pays $250 a month for a 3-bedroom place, 2 bathrooms, swimming pool, but the place looks a bit older and it's not in the best area. It's still safe, reasonably, but it's not in the trendy area. Do it now as an exercise, actually. Go to Airbnb, put in Medellin, put in El Poblado, type in, say, a month or a week, however long you might stay here, and just see how much the rent is. I guarantee you're going to be surprised. They're going to be a lot more than what you think. And they call that here gringo price, which is a whole argument in itself, but that's a story for another day. This is the worst part of the video, but it needs to be said because this is a 100% honest review of my year. And without this, it wouldn't be honest. So I just want to make you guys aware that this is not meant to scare you guys away. Medellin is still an amazing city with amazing people. But this is something, well, these things are something that you really need to be aware of. The first thing that I guess, if you're interested in coming to Colombia and Medellin, you already know about, scopolamine. Scopolamine is a drug that some women use here when they go on dates with foreigners. They sprinkle a bit of that in the foreigner's drink. He's immediately drugged. They go back to his place and they rob everything. They steal the credit cards, phones, laptops, etc. And you wake up the next day with no recollection of everything, with all your stuff gone. And in some cases, you wake up 3 days later. I have a whole interview that I did with a scopolamine victim, Eric Hall. Check out the description for that to really understand how this drug works and how common people are getting drugged and robbed here in Medellin. The expat community. Okay, so Medellin is a place that's known for parties, sex tourism, drugs, and cheap cost of living. So what kind of people do you think that's going to draw to the city? As I said before, It has a great expat community, a lot of digital nomads, a lot of people trying to build up their businesses and doing good things. But I would say that's a small percentage of the people. Most of the expats I see here, especially on social media, are the type that are coming to take advantage of the cost of living here, and they're not the best kind of people. Go on any Facebook group and you'll find out what I mean. Anything you write, even if you write where is the best place to volunteer and help kids have a better life, you're going to find someone who's going to give you some kind of negative comment. Hey, kids have a bad life in the US. What makes Colombia so special that you want to help them? You know what I mean? They just frame it in a negative mind. And out of all the places I've traveled, I've found Medellin expats on social media to be some of the worst in the whole world. This is the final one. And this I have never told anyone before. And this doesn't apply to everyone, but it applies to me. And this is the one reason why I've honestly thought about moving away from Medellin. Right now I'm actually in Brazil, which is an awesome place, by the way. Check out my Brazil videos. But I'm considering moving to Rio or even Argentina, just because Colombia is getting unsafe. For me, especially as a content creator, it all started when I made my first safety video, 20 safety tips about living in Medellin. After that, I started receiving comments, and these comments continued on every single video I made about Medellin, warning tourists about the potential dangers or anything along those lines. I'll get messages of people telling me something like this. I'm actually going to read it. We would like to meet you at Station San Antonio, 7 p.m. Friday. Take you to dinner. We know how you look. Take you to dinner. Be careful, amigo. You're too relaxed here in Medellin. Next one. Hey, amigo, we like to meet you at Estadio, 7 p.m. tomorrow. Be careful. Many foreigners are being murdered here. You could be the next. We'll take care of you. See you soon. We love you. Another one. We'll give you a special tour of Medellin, my foreigner amigo. Be careful. Many outsiders being murdered. We will take care of you. Thanks for showing your face and your location. Here, you're a very intelligent man, very smart. You're too comfortable here in our city. Bad idea. We have many guys looking for you. Those kind of messages, even if they might be fake, just make me not enjoy making videos here anymore. And I started out really loving it. And now it's more a stressor than anything, because probably nothing's going to happen. But it's Medellin, it's Colombia, you never know. So yeah, it's just like I released a video trying to help people out. A lot of people have also messaged me after my Scopolamine videos and safety videos saying, thank you so much, we didn't know about these things. I'm going to write down a list and be careful about this, but thank you so much for telling us. So when I make those kind of videos and I release them, and then I go on the street, and then I'm always like, oh fuck, let's not go here, let's not go there, and it's limiting my life. That's when it starts becoming, you know, do I need to be here? Should I just move somewhere else? Is it worth it? As I said before, don't want to scare anyone else from coming here. I have loved my time there. I do recommend it to anyone else. Just be smart and be safe. If you spend a lot of time in Medellin and you agree or you disagree with any of the things that I've said, I'd love for you to drop your experiences in the comments so that anyone else watching this can have a read of that too and add that to their list of things to consider. As I said, I have a lot of other videos on Colombia. If you want to see this one from a female's point of view, watch this. Or if you want to watch this other one talking about scopolamine and the dangers of this drug, watch this one. Hopefully there'll be some more Medellin videos, don't know, but if not, will definitely be more videos of me traveling around the world.